And I suppose we should do a proper introduction as well.
Oh
This
yeah,
is the ESOC. This is the ESOC Autumn Championship 2018. We have here today a game between Pérez and Sweethegreat in the qualifier stage Group 7. The Group 7 also containing players Human and Afdafa. The winner of this group will move on to Placements Group O, which contains Mongo Bilioni and Kyle the Great. The first map will be Manchuria. This is Game 1. In the south of the map, we have Sweethegreat playing the British in the color purple. And in the north of the map, we have Pérez playing Russia in the red color. I want to take a look at the hunts. This seems a lot better.
Okay.
You know, I still feel like Sweethegreat missing one hunt, but this hunt towards the trading post, that's something that's decent for extension. This,
yeah.
you can
It
also
seems.
extend towards.
If I were, yeah.
This seems
Okay.
good.
Okay.
Each player gets about 3 hunts.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So it looks like we've got Pérez starting off, looking like he's chopping a little bit of wood to start with. So I'm wondering if he's going to be going for a trading post right away.
Especially
Meanwhile,
with that, he picked up a 50 wood treasure, so that might influence his decision. Maybe he's going to go to a trade post? Yeah. That's definitely not something you see commonly with Russia players. They usually just go for the one house and gather food. I'm interested to see if he does go for that trade post, how much it delays his colonial age time by. He may even choose to go up with 17 vills. You know, in the current metagame, most players choose to go up with 14 vills as Russia, opting to get that faster age time rather than 3 additional villagers, which slows their age time from usually 4:15 or 4:30 to 5 minutes. But yeah, Pérez choosing to go for that greedy build order, getting that trade post off the start. Sweethegreat scouting it, choosing to melee Pérez's explorer. Gonna get some damage off, maybe snare him.
we'll see. Yeah, there was a little bit
Nice
of treasure
pickup
contention
there.
down there over this very, very strong 85 wood treasure. It looked like Pérez saw it first. He thought he could take it, but Sweethegreat was right in position and is able to be meleeing down this explorer a little bit. It's not going to result in a kill most likely, but it is annoying, and it's going to keep Pérez off the map. It'll have a much harder time getting any treasures later on, such as this 85 wood treasure. We did see Sweethegreat actually go for a double manor build to start with. This is something that I understand is not exactly typical. You tend to see on a wood start for British to go for a house plus a market, whereas double manor is a little bit less common. Do you know too much about the difference of build orders here?
Yeah, so I believe, you know, on the RE patch and probably past EP iterations, it might have been more common to go with the market, but we can see, I don't believe Sweethegreat found a coin treasure, and especially when you don't have that or a coin start, you might choose to just go for the double house.
I see.
In addition to that, EP also nerfed houses, so they actually cost 140 wood now. So that 5 additional wood, you know, it's kind of a disincentive to do the market where you may have to chop a bit for the wood or gather a bit for the coin.
I see.
The 300 wood start that British started with, you know, it's very easy to just do the double house and get that additional villager rather than the hunting dogs upgrade.
So we do see Sweethegreat going for this 85 wood treasure now. Pérez, he's not exactly in position. He might be able to steal it, but it's going to be very close. Sweethegreat, I think, a concern for a steal is putting this explorer right up near this tiger, just to be sure that he'll be in position. So not going for the creeping at all, but he wants to be very sure that he's going to be able to take this, which he will.
Taking some additional damage, but he's not too concerned, especially when he gets that additional 85 wood. He's already chopping some additional wood. He's clicked up the age up button, and I think he'll build a house again here soon.
Yeah, we see that.
Sweethegreat sitting on 3 yaks in base. Because Pérez chose to go with the trade post, he wasn't able to get a lot of early game scouting, and because of that, I think there was 1 yak he had, but it seems it's disappeared now. He probably chose to eat it in order to expedite his age up to colonial age.
Yeah, looks like both players are
Also,
pretty low on
2
hit points
villagers
right
going
now.
forward.
Oh, yes, I see that.
Villagers going forward for Pérez and 2 yaks coming back from the base. As you were saying?
Oh yeah, I was just looking at what the explorers are doing right now. It looks like Pérez is gearing up for another trading post if he can. And also actually they're both next to this 890 wood treasure, which Sweethegreat is going for right now. But Pérez, I think he saw it, so he might be able to catch it. And oh, okay, Sweethegreat misses the.
Oh yeah, he did indeed see that.
Yeah.
And in
but
fact,
his,
if he
yeah,
has
his
that crack
shot's
shot lined
on.
up, that's a free treasure. That is an immense boon. Sweethegreat realizing his mistake and just opting to run away from that treasure now.
Yeah. Wow, great pickup for Pérez there. And I think, I mean, okay, we see 170, okay, now 70 wood. Okay, we see a blockhouse. We must have seen one house go up, or actually a market up in his base. I was expecting the trading post to go up any moment now, but it looks like he'll be waiting a little bit, but I'm sure he's very happy to be picking up this market as well, which he basically got off that free treasure.
Instead of the second trade post from the Russia player, he's choosing to go with the blockhouse, getting that up a little bit sooner. You know, his age up is going to be quite soon, but I don't believe he's going to have enough resources with which to queue up units. Let's see what he has in queue.
Currently,
he
just
does have the villager
villagers.
batch in queue, electing to go with that rather than queuing up, you know, a fast 5 musketeers, shipping the 5 Cossacks. Not choosing to do be too aggressive, but of course for going that second trade post, it's not too essential with Russia. Opting to go with the blockhouse, as I said.
And it looks like Sweethegreat, expecting something much more aggressive, I would say, out of Pérez, has started with this outpost. I know that when you're playing British, the 500 food is typically considered the better, if not quite as safe option, because it's more valuable in the number of villagers that you're getting out of it. But we can see that Sweethegreat did go for this more defensive, more better able to hold up a rush option with this outpost right here. Which is not really...
He's got that hunt nicely tucked under his TC. And he does have some Hussars in queue as well in the back of his base. He chose to build a stable as soon as he aged up.
Yeah. And I guess we have 5 Cossacks coming out right now. I'm not sure that they're going to be able to commit to do too much damage. I think they're going to be pushed off by this outpost right here. And then, of course, once the Hussars are out, there's not really anything that these Cossacks can do. But Pérez doesn't seem to be too concerned about that. He's got a stable, he's got another trade post going up. Looks like a third is coming up as well. And so he's going to be playing for a much longer game than I think Sweethegreat was expecting.
Yeah, Sweethegreat scouting this 5 Cossacks with his Explorer and engaging them with his Hussars. Hussars being the stronger unit here. 5 on 5, the Hussars are going to win that every single time. Pérez as well getting snared with his Cossacks, going to take some additional damage. Trying to take off one Cossack to slow down the rest of the group, but failing at that. Splitting off another one. Yeah, he's still snared with his main group, just barely. Sweethegreat getting a swing off.
Yeah, it's too bad.
So 3 Cossacks going to die there. Both of them damaged, in fact. Not looking good for Pérez.
Yeah.
Sweethegreat able to get in that 600 wood shipment, another economic boon. You know, he can convert that 600 wood into additional manor houses, which you know, British manor houses, they pop out an additional villager every time you build one. It's an economic boon.
Going to look really quickly at the text from the market. Looks like Sweethegreat has gotten both hunting dogs and placer mines right now, whereas Pérez is still sitting at just the hunting dogs. But I would expect both players to be continuing to go up in the tech tree with that.
Pérez just finishing up the steel traps upgrade
for
his villagers.
Yeah. And then looks like Pérez also adding the stable on as well. So I think he's definitely playing for a much longer game than you might typically see at Russians. We saw the 700 wood shipment coming out. We saw 4 Cossacks after that, but I still wouldn't be surprised. And okay, looks like a bit of a catch coming in here. Not quite making it, but...
As well, Pérez sitting on the full trade line. In fact, just went up to stagecoach, so he's going to have that 3 TP stagecoach. If we look at the recalculated economic unit population, Sweethegreat sitting at 33 villagers, Pérez sitting at 25. But with these stagecoach TPs, should Pérez choose to switch them to gather resources or collect resources? Still collecting on XP from the seams of it, but should he choose to put them to resources now? That kind of serves as like basically a 5 villager shipment, maybe 5 or 6, round about that.
I would say, I think each trading post would be about 4, but yeah, we just saw Sweethegreat bring out a 5 villager shipment, so he's still ahead economically. He did get a couple of Hussars down there. I don't think Sweethegreat can contest this just yet. He was going for that. He got the Explorer, which was nice for him. He did a little bit of damage to trading post, but he has to pull back now because there are a lot of Russian musketeers out on the field.
Sweethegreat with 1 barracks and 1 stable in base. You know, I'd like to see a second barrack. It's only 8 minutes and 50 seconds, but as soon as possible, I'd like to see Sweethegreat build a second barracks. You know, British, they do quite well in late game colonial, but I wouldn't say they could depose a Russia who has map control.
Right.
Sweethegreat going to be the player that needs to make the move as the defensive civilization. And having the second barracks, being able to get a better musketeer mass is very important to that effect.
Right. I think a typical thing that happens in British versus Russians is that the British player is on this early game timer, right? They have some number of hunts that they have in base. Depends, the exact number depends on the map and how well they were herding, but they have some finite number of hunts in base. And once those run out, they have to be able to push out onto the map, or they effectively lose the game. So they get this one timing that, or one or two timings that they get to make, where they get to push out with potentially a better army, where they have to be able to take some map control, take another couple of hunts, and then from there try to win the game. They can beat Russian in late colonial, although Russians have this tendency to just continuously make more and more units, and never seem to be able to die, no matter how far behind they seem to be in score. But you do have to be, as the British player, careful of that timing. And we can see Sweethegreat has one hunt that he just finished up, or one hunt that's about to finish up in his base. He's got these yaks that he can still eat. Then his next hunt is probably going to be this one, which is pretty safe, but it's also a little bit decayed.
Instead of a big engagement from Sweethegreat, he's actually opting up to just raid with the Hussars. And in the meantime, you know, with the raiding, with Swee's raiding of Perez's villagers, you know, he's kind of delaying him, kind of putting him on the back foot. But Sweethegreat electing to go to age 3 instead of to continue to mass. But Perez intelligently moving in with his gigantic Cossack mass and his musketeer mass as well, moving into Sweethegreat's base. Sweethegreat only having an exposed hunt, nothing under his TC, a very exposed hunt to the north of his base, as well as he does have some yaks here that he could use it in an emergency situation, which I think will be impending soon.
But yeah, we can see a huge number of Russian.
As long as Sweethegreat can safely maybe get a 2 Falconet shipment and delay the engagement from Perez, he might be in a good position. It's hard to say, though.
Yeah, he has to be a little bit careful here. There are a lot of Russian musketeers. The Cossacks are pulling back, and that is a good opportunity to get a little bit of damage in. We have a musketeer ship, or was that a musketeer shipment? No, it was just a Minuteman, but still. Good push out here by Sweethegreat. He was able to get a lot of free shots and didn't really lose too many units yet. And he is going to be able to in H3 pretty soon with a shipment available. So I think he did manage that engagement pretty well. There wasn't a lot of damage that Pérez could do. He got a lot of units lost with not really a lot of gain.
He did kill the outpost. You know, that's technically 250 wood worth of units, but it's not too big. You know, an outpost is mostly just for a garrison point rather than raw damage output. So I don't think Sweethegreat's too concerned about that. He is successfully up now. I'd like to see him get the veteran musketeer upgrades as well as ship 2 falconets.
Yeah, a lot of villagers going down there.
Villagers here,
but just pulled off his villagers from the hunt just a little bit too late. But
at this point, with the age advantage, you know, you're not too concerned on economy unless it goes later. Mostly you're looking for that military victory, so I'd like to see Sweethegreat play much more aggressive. You know, I think this is his best window, is an early fortress, getting that veteran musketeer upgrade, maybe veteran Huss as well, continuing to pump out units with the economy he has. In terms of economic strength, it isn't that important what it is, as long as he can continue to pressure Pérez.
So yeah, we do see the falconets. They've come out, the veteran musketeers come out. We have the falconets just attacking the blockhouse for now. I guess, yeah, Pérez is on a bit of a timer now himself, right? He has to be able to build up enough units to be able to handle either this army, or go up to H3 himself and fight with veteran units, but he has to be able to do something against these falconets, which is just going to continuously siege down whatever he's got, unless he does something about it. So we did see another stable come up a little bit close to the forward base, which means that it is also in danger of getting sieged down. But Sweethegreat is moving very slowly up this, so Pérez does have a little bit of time here.
So note this batch of trees, you know, excuse me, Pérez gonna need to be able to get these cannons down. He's gonna need some flanks with his Cossacks, but these trees serving as a very nice natural barrier. Sweethegreat parking his musketeers just in front of those falconets. It's gonna be very difficult for Pérez to find a way where he can get those Cossacks engaged, so that he can maximize his damage output with them.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of Cossacks here. They could potentially go in if they can get a good opportunity, but yes, as you were saying, the trees making for a lot of good cover. There's a good enough number of musketeers out. There's even it looks like one dragoon he got a batch of. Oh, and actually, just as a small note, it looks like Pérez took the water a little bit. We can see a couple of boats in queue. And that's nice to see, really. It's really nice to see players take the water without committing too hard to it, just to add a little bit to supplement their economy. And I know that's what the new EP was trying to do, to make players go for the water without going too hard into it. But it looks like we've got an engagement coming up. Cossacks coming in. I don't think that they're going to be able to find the angle. We've got Musketeers also on the other side, but they're basically just going to have to stand and fire at it. And a lot of great shots coming in for these Falconets. One Falconet might go down, but I think that Sweethegreat is very happy with that. Cossacks not really able to find a position here, and it looks like just one Falconet going down now, but I think a lot of Russian units are dead. There's not really going to be an opportunity to take down that second Falconet. I spoke too soon. Looks like that second Falconet did go down, but
the second Falconet going to go down. But you know, Pérez, basically his entire military mass here is Cossacks against veteran Musketeers, I should say. And you know, the economy is about even, but Sweethegreat with that tech advantage. He's in age 3. He has better shipments, and he has the advantage in terms of military count.
Pretty common thing that can happen with Falconets is that your opponent can, if they really want to, spend everything they've got to take the Falconets down, but it comes at the cost of losing their entire army and not destroying a lot of your main line units. And we saw exactly that here, right? All the Musketeers for Sweethegreat are still alive. He did lose the Falconets, but he's got a ton of units, and Pérez just doesn't have much that can contest that. I saw Pérez tried to go for a little bit of raiding there, but actually these Dragoons are in position. A little bit more engagements kind of all over the map right now. We've got like a couple of Cossacks, a couple of Musketeers over on this trading post. The trading post will be going down shortly. But yeah, I'm a little bit concerned right now for Pérez because he's got like 20 Strelets as the rest of his army. And I don't know if that's going to be enough.
There we see it. Pérez calling game 1. Sweethegreat going to take the victory with his British on this map.
Yeah.
Pérez not too satisfied with that result.
Yeah.
By me.
It
did come down to that. Yeah.
The entertaining thing is when you say GG, but then afterwards you're like, that game was terrible. Like, even though you said good game, yeah. No,
you can acknowledge it's a good game, but be dissatisfied with your performance. Totally, yeah.
I definitely understood what he meant.
I really think it came down to that engagement.
Yeah.
Sweethegreat taking very intelligently using the natural cover of those trees. I would have liked to see Pérez maybe split his Cossacks into 2 groups and have them approach from 2 different angles. You know, British Third Age Musketeers are still quite strong against them, but if he could have gotten down those Falconets earlier, he would have had more Musketeers, more Strelets left in mass, and those would have performed better against the Musketeer mass that Sweethegreat had, and that would have given him a better shot. Maybe it wouldn't have won them the game from that point, but we could have seen a few more minutes tacked on, and maybe a miracle pulled through.
Right. If we look at the villager population, I think we could say that Pérez had actually a chance to do very well in this game, because he did pretty much equalize the villager count, and he had the trading post. And we have to remember that British, they can make a lot of villagers early on, but they can only make so many houses, and Russians produce villagers more quickly than the British do. So he was in a position to have an economic lead against the British player, and if he had managed to maybe not necessarily win the engagement, but at least come to some sort of parity with it, I think he would have had the chance to pull the game out from under Sweethegreat there. Just didn't quite manage the engagement quite as well as he would have liked, and after that it sort of fell apart for him.
Absolutely. But I think we're ready to move on to game 2. Yep. The map will be Tibet.
Definitely a map I'm excited to see. So Sweethegreat will be picking first, and I'll let him know that. And since there's a little bit of downtime, I am going to have to ask him, is it Sweethegreat or Sweethegreat? Because I've always wanted to know, and I think I'm never going to get a better opportunity than this.
Sweethegreat also pretty entertained by that question.
It's a valid question. Sweethegreat. Okay. That's what I've been saying. I'll continue to say that, but it's hard to resist the opportunity. Pérez thinks Sweethegreat. So, as we were mentioning about Tibet earlier on, it's a bit different, or I would say very different from Manchuria, right? Manchuria is more of a typical style map, in the same line as, say, Hudson Bay or Arkansas or even Great Plains. This map, on the other hand, is very different in a lot of ways, right? It's got this circular trading post line, and we can actually see, because of the new wonderful UI, let us see the map right away. We can see the circular trading post line, a lot of different cliffs going around. Hunts can be very difficult to manage because you can have a hunt that spawns on the other side of a cliff, and it becomes very hard to herd. So,
I think the best, yeah.
It's a tough map to play.
It has, the trade lines. It has herdables, I believe. Or not herdables, but
herdables, yeah.
Livestock around there.
Yeah.
And the hunts are quite similar, but of course the layout vastly different, and that does influence the gameplay a lot.
Yeah. And I think the other thing that we see on the map is that there's multiple valid routes of attack, meaning that, say, if we look at this map, right, you could say the blue player comes down on this right side, sort of attacking counterclockwise, whereas the red player also attacks counterclockwise, coming down the top side of the map. And both players will have perfectly valid positions of their armies, right? It's not like one player is going for something really strange out there. It's a perfectly valid position for your army to be, but both players, just because they went in different directions, will find themselves often in base rate scenarios that they didn't mean to bring about, just because they were positioning their armies differently. So, Sweethegreat.
Sweethegreat locking in his what are they called?
Germans.
His Germans here. Perez the Great. Not Perez the Great. But Perez.
Well, he is pretty great. But, yeah, I'm gonna ask him. Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Yes, it is greatly appreciated. You know, it's a bit pedantic of us to ask, but it is best for the viewers.
Yes. And I guess Sweethegreat is one of those people, like myself, who will just always commit to one color, and they'll never switch off the color they get. So I'm always picking green no matter what. Sweethegreat looks like he's always picking purple no matter what. And so it's up to Pérez to just switch off the blue when he can. So, Germans versus Dutch. I know that this is a matchup that on the RE patch is considered extremely German favored, right? It's like a 70-75% in favor of Germans. On the EP, I think it's a little bit different. I know Germans they've had the Ulan changes from like 190 HP to 180 back to 190, and now I think at 185 it's been what's been settled on, and the Ulans have been just changed a lot. And Dutch have gotten a couple of buffs, so I think it's a little bit more even. But before I get too much into that, let's make sure the map is doing okay. So
you can see one hunt in base, or not in base, but behind the base of Pérez, near that trade line. He can also extend for the ones over here. This one a bit far, so he basically has those two hunts as well as the one on the plateau.
Yeah.
Sweethegreat, on the other hand, playing as the Germans. He does have that one in the back of base. And he also has this one over here, so I think that's 1-2, 1-2 for each.
Yeah. I think no matter what, Tibet hunts are always going to be just bad. And it's kind
always
of
going to be a little bit wonky.
Yeah. I think Sweethegreat, his hunts maybe aren't quite as good, but this hunt is easier to herd, the south one, because there's no cliff in the way, whereas for Pérez, that's not the case. And so that's what makes me think that this map is a bit even.
Exactly. Both of these civilizations like to start with cavalry. So I think we're going to see a lot of raids, raid pressure, catching of raids, So I think the hunt's, you know, equally exposed for both players, besides maybe this one towards mid-map. But still, I don't think either player will choose to go for it, unless they're maybe opting for an infantry-style rush. Maybe Pérez is going to go balls to the walls with 8 pike first shipment, bopping out 5 skirms, going to do some aggression. Or maybe Sweethegreat will choose to go double racks expo, but those much less common than the standard ones you see. Usually German like to go 5 cav semi-FF, and Dutch usually the 5 cav semi-FF as well, or the 10 cav sometimes if they want to do a really a non-unique counter build.
So one thing that we should talk about just briefly is that Pérez has been getting a lot of yak so far, and that's one of the benefits of having the second scout, this envoy. He's able to get, I mean, I think he's got 2 that he just got, 2 that are moving in, another 4. Okay, so he's got 8 yaks through this. He's still, he lost 1, so he almost had 9 for a moment there. But Sweethegreat just stole 1, but Pérez has been doing a great job getting these yaks. Actually, he might be up to 9 now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He's got a lot of yaks. And he's been getting, well, I think he just got this nice treasure right now. Okay, so he's been doing pretty well in treasures too. Sweethegreat got a 90 wood treasure across 2 treasure, or sorry, across 1 treasure, whereas Pérez got 40 and 50 wood across 2. So they ended up getting even amounts of wood treasures, but Sweethegreat had to pay a lot of explorer life to get that. So I think Pérez is starting off age 1 with a great position.
And that's something you typically see of Dutch. You know, that envoy is also useful for explorer engagements. You know, the German player not looking to be the one that wants to engage in those because he doesn't have that supplemental damage that comes from a second scouting unit.
And I forgot to check the player's decks last game, but I'll do it this time. Pérez looks like he's got a pretty typical deck. He does have Colonial Militia in his deck, but I don't think he's expecting to send it. Otherwise, it's got generally all the things you'd expect. He does have that unique Church Dutch card, which occasionally you'll see do kind of meme strats. I don't think he'll necessarily be going for it, but it'd be interesting to see. Sweethegreat's got a pretty typical deck too. A lot of H2, a lot of H3, a little bit of H4. So pretty standard decks, nothing too crazy out of either player. One thing actually that is worth remarking about is that neither player is going to be going for ATP, which is a possibility on this map just because there are so many trading posts. I think both players are going to be, maybe they'll be getting some trading posts, possibly. I see Sweethegreat's already getting 1. The question is he going to get 2, 3, 4? I think if we were expecting 4 or 5, he would have sent the ATP card, and as a result, I think he might just be going for 1, maybe a second.
Going for the more standard build order. Also putting up the market in H1. Going a little bit heavy gathering the wood. Going to get those upgrades. Probably play a bit more passively, which inclines me to believe he's probably going to go for a 5 cav semi-FF. And Pérez likewise the same.
Yeah, we see 1 bank up for Pérez. Another's coming up in a moment. I guess, yeah, with Dutch, the question is always, when do you put your stable up? If you're going to go for a stable, like how many banks are you going to build before you're willing to put it up? And it's a bit of a function of how aggressive you expect your opponent to be. If you don't expect your opponent to be in your base, then you definitely prefer to just have banks rather than a stable. And it looks like that's what is going to be happening. We see the stable going up for Sweethegreat, but it's not super early. So I could see, or actually no, the stable going up for Pérez. I could have seen another bank going up before the stable comes up.
Stable coming down for both players. I'm interested to see how much cav they choose to make in H2. You know, sometimes you occasionally get those long, drawn-up H2 cav fights where both players are just spamming cav, maybe the 8 pike shipment from the Dutch, but other than that, they just like to engage and pressure. And it makes it quite awkward when your opponent has, like, say, 10 cav in your base and you're trying to age up and you're completely garrisoned. It can do quite a bit of damage if it's done tastefully by the opponent.
So a quick remark actually is that Sweethegreat has gotten 3 mark attacks so far, whereas Pérez has still yet to start a single one. So I'm really liking Sweethegreat's build order here. He's got a stable up, he's got a lot of techs, he's going to be in H3 pretty soon. Pérez, well, he also has 4 banks. He's making hussars. So his build is pretty good too, but I'm really liking the commitment to upgrades that Sweethegreat's making. We do see 4 Ulans out, missed, maybe just barely missed that last one. 4 Ulans coming down, 5, or no, actually 4 hussars as well. And we can see that both batches of units are going on completely different directions. Bit of a catch potentially here. Yeah. Okay.
Thing of note is Pérez did a very nice job of herding the hunt that was behind his cliff back into his base. And so these 4 Ulans that are coming around the bend from Sweethegreat are not going to find what they were hoping to find, which would have been some exposed villagers.
That's always really nice, because I know on this map I would have this hunt maybe like right here from where it started, and I would just lose all my villagers.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, Pérez did a great job there, and he might be able to get a catch here. Looks like he's going to get at least 1 Ulan. That one just ran on the wrong side of the cliff, and we'll be going down. We do see a couple of trading posts going up for Sweethegreat. He's got one over here on this top left side of the map, and then one at the very north. And that's going to be a very hard trading post to hold on to. I'm a little bit surprised that he's not going to go for this one further south, or this one. I kind of would have preferred his Explorer to go, instead of going around clockwise from this starting trading post on the left, to go counterclockwise down to this southern one, even though it's a little bit farther to walk for that second trading post. For the second trading post that he makes. I think it's a much safer one to guard. This one...
Something of note is that there are actually 2 different trade lines.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
One in the northwest and one in the southeast. So they're actually 2 separate ones.
Yeah.
Sweethegreat getting all 3 stagecoaches on the one to the northwest. And the reason you would do that is because you want to upgrade to stagecoach. But we can see Swee currently distributing to go to Fortress Age. So I wonder if we'll get that stagecoach upgrade in transition. And if he's not electing to do that, as you said, of course, it would have been better to get one that's more easily defendable, like one in the south of the map.
Yeah, you're right. I had forgotten that it is, in fact, 2 trade lines, and he did actually upgrade to Stagecoach just now. So these would be the correct ones to take, yeah. So, sorry, Sweethegreat, you were actually, you made the correct choice here. And he did get a few nice catches of hussars just now. Don't know if he's going to get any more. He has to be a little bit careful of a Minutemen call or anything like that, and their Minutemen call comes in. He's going to lose maybe 1 or 2 Ulans. He might get a villager, doesn't look like it. And he has to be a bit careful now because he did lose a few more Ulans to the Hussar turn. So, well-timed Minutemen call by Pérez, and he's in Age 3 a bit earlier as well. He's going to be getting a little bit more damage out with these Minutemen. They become very useless after they run out of hit points. So he wants to do whatever he can. But no major happenings yet. I don't think either player I would describe as being out of the game. I wouldn't even say that either player has a huge disadvantage or advantage over the other. But I do like Sweethegreat's build with all those market techs, with these 3 trading posts, even if this one over here might be a little hard to defend.
Yeah, Pérez scouting that one to the north, gonna siege it with some 3 hussars. I don't think that's necessarily intended to get it down very quickly. You know, he's not investing all of his military in towards getting that down. Not that he should, because that pretty much idles his military for a very long time, puts it in an awkward position where Sweethegreat is able to maybe come into his base and harass his villagers.
Yeah, we can see the consequence actually of having these hussars and raiders on this side of the map, as he's going to lose 3 villagers because his military is not being very active. So, unfortunate for him.
Lose.
But eventually he'll get that trading post down. He might actually get it down before the next pass. So, there's at least some compensation. And now double barracks going up for Sweethegreat. So I think we're definitely going to be seeing a lot of skirmishers. I'm wondering how many Ulans he's going to be making and how many war wagons. To what extent he's going to be going for Skirm Ulan, or if he wants to do more of a 3-unit combination. Because when you're playing Germany, it's always tough to manage war wagons. They never enjoy making them because they're not a great unit compared to Reuters or Dragoons. But you kind of have to. And
Yeah, the thing about war wagons is they do have 16 range compared to normal dragoons, which have 6. Reuters as well having 12. Oh, not 6, but 12 range.
Right.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Reuters as well having the 12 range. But war wagons have a very awkward turn rate. They have a blocky model, you know. As well, they only have 6 speed. Normal dragoons have 7.25, so they're significantly slower and more prone to being caught, even by just normal hussars. If your opponent has maybe say 12 hussars and you have 4 war wagons out on the field, it's actually quite easy for the hussar player to catch your war wagons and kill them cost effectively.
Yeah. So not a lot of units out for Sweethegreat right now. We see only 8 skirmishers which were shipped, a bunch of Ulans, but there's a lot of Reuters, and so Sweethegreat's not really going to be able to, and that reminds me to update the score. Sweethegreat's not going to be able to engage just yet. Hopefully he'll be having another shipment coming out. We do see actually a bunch more skirmishers just came. Well, 10 just popped now. I'm wondering if he's going to be sending a unit shipment next, or if he's going to try to play a little bit more economically and go for that 1,000 wood, which I'm sure he wants to send, or even 1,000 gold.
Those shipments would greatly streamline his ability to produce maybe another town center, some more houses. It doesn't seem he's too pressed for house population right now. Maybe a town center or another trade post.
But it's the 7
1,000 wood would do.
Yeah.
I think if he were to ship 1,000 coin, that would better supplement his production. But this time, choosing to go for the 7 skirmishers, and I think that's a good call, given that he saw that Pérez had a bigger skirmisher mass.
Yeah, I think when you have these skirmreuter, or I guess skirmgoon competitions, you do a lot of the battles are decided by just who has more skirmishers, unless you have a lot of cavalry, which there is a decent amount of cavalry out. It can be a little hard to actually win these engagements unless you just have a larger skirm count. We do see a nice pickoff of skirmishers on Purple's side, getting a few there, but the Reuters coming in, he has to be a bit careful now to not lose too many Ulans, because there's still a lot of skirmishers. But actually, these Ulans could catch the skirmishers out just now. The Reuters are not in position for this.
Very nice by Sweethegreat. Like you said in the pre-game, this awkward pathing. One player is going to be going clockwise, the other counterclockwise. Pérez kind of being on the receiving end of being caught out of position there. But I think the trades are roughly even, maybe Sweethegreat slightly ahead, but I think Pérez is okay with it. He does have a slightly better recalculated economic unit population, so he can kind of afford to take slightly worse trades, but now we can see the trades are about even.
Yeah, the Ulan catch that I was expecting to happen didn't quite happen, and not too many skirmishers on Pérez's part were lost. Actually, not too many Ulans that remain. There's only, I would say, 14 to 15 left. A lot more skirmishers, but the Reuter count isn't too high either, and so a pop of 10 Ulans could do a lot for Sweethegreat right here. In terms of the military population, in terms of rather the skirm count, looks like we've got 31 skirms for Sweethegreat and 38 for Pérez. And we have to remember that Dutch skirmishers do have an upgrade route that German skirmishers do not. Germans don't get to send the cars that will upgrade their skirmishers, whereas Dutch have, I believe, 3 different upgrades for skirmishers. One in H3, of course, which is the best one, but then another 2 in H2.
Now, with that said, it's especially important for German to do something deciding in the early fortress timing. We're currently at 14 minutes, so it's going into the later stages. Those cards for Dutch are going to come in. He's already sent infantry combat. As well, he can send infantry attack and infantry hit points. And that's just going to put his skirms so far ahead in terms of power,
Yeah. It looks like...
Especially now that, I believe...
Oh, sorry. Yeah, a few Ulans actually getting missed. Oh, okay, they just now got moved. I was wondering where a lot of Sweethegreat's army is, because it seemed like he's doing pretty well in score. He was behind maybe 20 points in score maybe 2 minutes ago, but now he's been able to catch up. Or actually, okay, he's fallen down a little bit now. Pérez making the nice play of stealing one of those trading posts actually up in the north, but he is going to get a raid down here too. Looks like a few villagers have potential to go down, just one so far, and maybe none of the others. And then a little bit more combat over here, but I think that there's not enough Ulans to actually make a catch here, and then the Reuters are just going to be able to come in and do a lot of damage. Great positioning actually by the skirmishers. They're in a very hard to reach position because of these trees. They're not going to be able to do a lot of damage with the Ulans. And now
using that natural barrier to great effect and taking a lot of great shots off. Killed a bunch of Yulins, a bunch of skirmishers. He only lost a few skirmishers of his own and a single Reuter as far as I could tell.
Yeah.
As well, the villager a little bit earlier.
Yeah, yeah. The skirmisher count in that engagement for Sweethegreat just wasn't there. And even though he had a good positioning at the start, once the skirmishers from Pérez started firing, you saw just tons of, I guess it was +12s going down, red +12s. Skirmisher count a little bit more even now, but I think it's still in Pérez's favor. And we can see one of the effects of Tibet is that it's very hard to be fighting on this map with cavalry, right? It's so hard to get your cavalry into position with all these trees, with all these cliffs, that whoever's winning in the skirm war is going to be ahead in the game in a lot of cases.
Yeah, with cavalry on this map, it's basically it wins you the game or it doesn't. And that
Right.
may seem like it's not saying a lot, but it's basically an all-in. You know, you have to get just the right engage, just the right timing for it to have massive effect. And when you can't get that, you know, the pathing, the natural cliff barriers, the trees, they make for awkward pathing, and you know it's hard to get a good engage with the Yulins in a standard engagement.
Yeah, we saw a few Reuters getting donated over to purple, but even so, I think the skirmisher count is so good for Pérez, and skirmishers, of course, are the better skirmishers. The Reuter count is sufficiently high that it's going to take a lot of Ulans to actually be able to contest the skirmishers that way. Sweethegreat definitely on the back foot in a lot of ways. We do see that he did make a town center, so that I could see is his means of catching up. He's going to try to just have more skirmishers by having more resources. And I think that that's the correct decision here. I don't think that he's going to be able to make a lot happen with cavalry on this map. We've seen there's just so many Reuters now, there's still so many cliffs, and the cliffs aren't going to go away even if the Reuters do. So I think that he has to win the skirm war by having a lot more resources.
Basically. With that said, the economies currently are a bit even. You know, Pérez has 52, so Sweethegreat's 50, but if you look at the trade post, that kind of evens it out.
Right.
So they're pretty much on break even. But the big difference here is that Pérez currently has a bigger military, as well as his skirmishers are far more upgraded.
Right. And if you think of skirmishers as being the main decider of this game, right, whoever has more skirmishers is going to be the winner. If you think of Pérez skirmishers as being, I guess, right, they have 15% hit points and attack, that's in some sense a 30% upgrade over Sweethegreat, not exactly, but it's close to that. And in some sense, that's basically having like a plus 30% to your economic population as well. If you think of the math, not exactly correctly, but if you think of it that way. So Sweethegreat definitely needs these extra town centers to be able to contest. He does have a second already up, a third is going up soon, but I don't think it's actually going to be able to go up because there's a lot of skirmishers that are just about to shoot this explorer.
We can see Pérez has almost twice the military population of Sweethegreat. He's also 50 points ahead in score.
Yeah, I'm thinking, like, what do you do at this point if you're Sweethegreat? You're not doing great on the resources now because you've lost your map control. Right, this right side of the map has all the hunts and mines that are remaining. There's not too much on the left side now, and so you need to expand over here, but this is where Pérez's army is. So it's very difficult to actually push out. I could see some switch to artillery maybe working, just because it's not going to, you're not going to be making more skirmishers at this point, and your skirmishers are worse. So it's going to be very hard to win with skirmishers. It's going to be very hard to win with Ulans because there's so many Reuters still. I think artillery is his only real choice, but I don't know where he's going to get those resources. Well, he does have 2,000 food stocked up, so yeah.
We can also see Pérez adding in the veteran Hussars. He's got 10, he's got 19 out on the field, 10 being trained. They're in his base, just catching a Yulin raid right now, cleaning that up, and quickly they're going to be coming to the fight. So he has 9 with his big mass, and as well 10 on the way.
Yeah, a little bit of big engagement going on in the center, but I don't think that Sweethegreat's going to have much of a chance to do anything here. Even the Hussars are getting great hits on the skirmishers, and then these Ulans not really connecting the way they should have. And yeah, calling GG there, I wouldn't be surprised.
Sweethegreat realizing there's not much he can do in that position, calling a good game, and that'll be game 2, tying up the series 1-1.
Ah, yes.
And,
Thanks for reminding me
basically,
to check the score.
basically, if we can comment on that that matchup, it was pretty even at all points, but basically the best window for Germany to win in that matchup, they just don't have the scaling potential that Dutch does with the upgrades. So, Germany's best window is in that early fortress, or maybe doing something deciding in H2, like maybe switching to Dops and catching a Pérez in an awkward position, taking down a stable,
right,
so he can't produce any units. Or otherwise, as I said, just doing something in the early game fortress. We saw Sweethegreat kind of fluctuating with his units mid-map, doing a few raids, but not catching much. And, they just took some pot shots in the middle of the game. There were a few times where they were close to a full-on engagement, but it never really fully settled. And as the game went on, it went more in Pérez's favor with those upgrades.
Definitely, yeah. And one of the big things about Germany is that they do like those big full engagements, right? Because they like to have all their Uhlans jammed right into their enemy units. They want those big flashy engagements where they can get a lot of kills, and where there's just so many Uhlans that even if you have some number of Dragoons or Reuters, you can't deal with all the Uhlans, and so you're going to lose your entire skirmisher count, while the German skirms are backing you up and cutting down your Reuter or Dragoon count. But Sweethegreat just couldn't find that right opportunity to make that sort of big play happen because, and I don't think we should underestimate the map, right? There's just so many different cliffs. It's so hard to find that right engagement angle that you're eventually just going to be whittled away and pushed further and further back into your base until eventually the Dutch advantage is insurmountable. I think that's exactly what we saw here.
Certainly. And so, moving on to game 3, the last map in the series will be Gran Chaco.
Yeah. Another good Dutch map, actually. Seeing as there's no trading posts, it's always good when you're playing a civ that doesn't need trading posts. Did you just leave the game? Or was that somebody else? I wasn't paying attention.
It was somebody else, no worries.
Oh, okay, sorry.
And so Pérez will be the first one to lock civilization here.
Yeah. So I'm wondering what he's going to be going for. I think that Dutch, again, would be a good pick. I would not complain at all if he picked Dutch on this map. And then for Sweethegreat, I would hope that he picked British. Pretty much no matter what Pérez picks, I would hope that he picks British.
I would not be surprised to see a Dutch versus British on this map. I believe we saw that matchup. I'm not quite sure, but I think we saw that with Kaiserklein and Nuschelbar in the weekend tours. I swear I recall seeing it, but I'm not quite sure when it was. But instead, Pérez, in fact, going to choose Russia here.
Yeah, we might be seeing a repeat of Game 1 here.
Exactly.
But I guess in Game 1, right?
This map operating...
Go ahead, sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, in Game 1, we saw Pérez go for
operating
this.
a bit differently to Manchuria.
Yeah.
With no water potential. There are still livestock on the map. However, there's no trade posts, so it's actually... It fares a little bit worse for Russia. Russia not having the opportunity to do something like a stagecoach to supplement their economy. Instead, they kind of have to focus on pressure, denying hunts, containing the British player in Age 2. And Sweethegreat, indeed, going for the re.
Nice. Kind of what we'd expect out of Sweethegreat. He is known for his British play. Not a bad pick out of... Oh, yes, of course, the red color. Not a bad pick out of Pérez either. I think that he had a good opportunity to win Game 1, and it didn't quite work out for him in Game 1, but I don't think that means that he couldn't do it if he were able to try again. It is a little bit different now because Pérez build that he used on Manchuria with this early trading posts and all of that, it's not going to work here simply because there are no trading posts. But that doesn't mean that Pérez not going to be able to think of something to do. I'm excited to see what he's going to go for here.
Having seen what Sweethegreat likes to do in the previous game, Pérez will be better mentally prepared to counter that in this game. Not that I would expect Sweethegreat to go for a sneak age 3, but Pérez going to be more on his feet, I think, here.
So doing a quick look at the map, I think a lot of these, or actually no, it looked like a lot of these were berries, but they're not. They're just really close together hunts. I think we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on Pérez's side, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Actually, like closer to 7 on Sweethegreat's side. Is that correct? Am I doing this correctly?
These hunts are good. There's a bunch that are herdable to the TC. There's that big one made of guanacos, and also the emus, or not the emus, the reyes.
Oh, okay.
The front of the base.
Okay. Yeah, looks like
good for both players. Yeah.
Okay, so yes, going into game 3 between Pérez and Sweethegreat. This is remind me which group this is and which placements, but
I think it's placements group O. Oh no! Sorry, this is qualifiers group 7.
Okay.
And the winner of this group will move on to placements group O. So should Pérez win this matchup, or win this match, I should say, he'll be 3-0 in the group, and he will be confirmed to move on to placements group O, which contains Mongo Bilioni and Kyle the Great. But if Sweethegreat wins this, it's not totally locked in yet. He still has 2 more series to play before we can establish a true winner there.
I see. Interesting.
Gone 2-1 in his match record, and Sweethegreat 1-0. In that case, Sweethegreat winning. Yeah.
I see. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it looks like both players so far have been playing very closely matched. Right. We saw two pretty even games. Neither one was really a blowout in either direction, and so I'm excited to see this one. I think that we're going to see another pretty close match coming up. And starting off, I noticed we've had huntable or herdables on every single map so far, and we continue to see them. Looks like Pérez saw one of the herdables, he converted it, but he knew he wasn't going to be able to keep it, and so he just got rid of it. A little bit of engagement going on down between these explorers. Pérez, he's gotten 100 wood so far out of treasures, so even though he's lost a lot of explorer HP, I don't think he minds too much because he's gotten a lot of great treasures so far.
Working on it right now, Sweethegreat's getting the 105 coin treasure guarded by 2 alligators as well. Sweethegreat has 3 llamas on the way to his base, 4 already there. Pérez sitting on no huntables. No, herdables, I should say, rather,
right.
Currently. So, Sweethegreat does have the advantage in terms of that. It's basically like having a second hunt in base.
Right, and this is very critical when you're the British, right? Because when you're playing British versus Russians, your timer is set by how many hunts you have remaining in your base. When you're Russians, you're going to have map control. You don't have to worry too much about when you're going to run out of hunts because you can always go to the next hunt on the map, and you can start building up blockhouses when you need them to guard against raids. But when you're British, the number of herds that you have and the number of herdables really you have in your base is not just something that's going to be mattering late game where they're all fully fattened. That might become something that you need to worry about earlier on before they're fully fattened, where you need to just get some last bit of resources before you can push out.
Absolutely.
So
indeed, picking up that 105 coin treasure, Pérez's Explorer, a little bit lower on HP than his, actually. Yeah, so that was part of the reason that Pérez chose to run away with his Explorer in the prior engage. He was a bit lower on health from when he was going for that 70 wood treasure. But yeah, just Sweethegreat having that scouting advantage, having all the llamas on the map, and also as well picking up 100 XP treasure here.
Yeah, not too relevant of a treasure right now because he's already aged up, and so it's not going to get him. It's not going to change his shipment progression too much until later on, but still nice to have. And I think he has done pretty well in treasures now so far, right? He's gotten 105 coin, 100 XP. Pérez, after he got that initial 100 wood, hasn't really been able to find too much. He got 40 food, but it doesn't really matter much. Maybe smooth that his age up a little bit. So I'm wondering, yeah, if there's anything else on the map. There's this 100 food treasure, but it's a little hard to take for both players. I think that Pérez will maybe just try to catch it later on in the game, like with his 5 Cossacks. And we do have another 100 XP over here, but I think neither player is going to be going for that. I think it's too far away. No, actually, never mind. So we are going to see 135 coin get picked up by Pérez. It looks like he's been working on that treasure for a while.
As well, Sweethegreat scouting out this blockhouse from Pérez.
Yeah. Looks like he got a bit of damage down
That
to
135
it,
coin, going to be a nice pickup. It might give him the ability to just sneak in, you know, a steel traps upgrade. Or maybe
Right.
he's not going to do that. Maybe just elect to invest that into more musketeer production.
And we actually see walls coming up for Sweethegreat right now. He made he aged up with the outpost. He's making a stable, and we do see a lot of walls. So he's going to be playing this pretty defensively. He did get a little bit of damage down on this blockhouse. Took about 1/4 of its health off, but he's not going to be able to do any further. And he actually almost lost all of his Explorer HP for that. And actually finishing up the wall too.
Completely stealing off the front half of his base, getting that Rhea hunt nicely secured underneath his outpost. First shipment from Pérez, going to be the 5 Cossack, as well as 5 Musketeers. Pretty much the right option, even though Pérez technically isn't aware of Sweethegreat having the stable out rather than the barracks. Assuming Sweethegreat going to be doing the same thing as in the first game, you know, just starting out Musketeers here, always good.
Right. Yeah, starting stable versus Russians is pretty much always going to happen, right? No matter whether they start Strellet or start Musketeer, you're pretty much starting stable. And getting a nice Hussar pop there, getting a couple of hits down on these Cossacks. I don't think any are going to go down, maybe. He has to be a bit careful for the turnaround.
Looking too good for Pérez here.
Yeah.
Put a bit of damage on the Hussars, but not too much. Losing far more than he gained there, I think.
Yeah, he lost a lot of Musketeers just went down to TC fire. That's too bad for him. I think he had the opportunity to turn around there and kill the Hussars, but so many Musketeers had gone down that it wasn't going to quite happen, and so he did pull back correctly. A few more Cossacks out here, but yeah, I don't think he's going to be able to make a lot of push in right now. He's taking down this house, which is fine, even though British houses have it's not always great to take them down. I think in this case it's the correct decision just to get that line of sight down. But I don't think British are going to mind losing a house too much.
Got a villager losing 2 musketeers there, I believe. Gonna take down that house.
And these Hussars are actually going out
just
to do a raid. Looks like.
Realizing he isn't. I mean, he is under pressure, but he's not in his base. He doesn't need to fully engage right now. So taking the time, maybe scout around the map, see where Pérez is gathering, and maybe idle him a little bit. And even if not idle him, maybe force the Cossacks to go back to the base to catch that raid. Would be something that Sweethegreat would be really happy about.
Yeah. One thing that's worth noting is that this hunt for Sweethegreat is not in a good position compared to where Pérez's army is, right? There's a few hunts and berries still here, but it's the main hunt is still all up with where Pérez's army is. And so Sweethegreat really wants to be able to get control back over that hunt, and it's going to be a little bit hard for him because there's so many Russian units out.
Yes, we're realizing he doesn't have enough time to really pull off a substantial raid, so he's bringing the 5 Hussars back to his base in order to establish more control around his base and maybe bring that hunt back in around the TC.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, we've got 5 Hussars, we've got maybe 12 Musketeers. Looks like we had 6 Hussars, but it's about to be lost. I think a good Minuteman pop here could do it for Sweethegreat. I mean, we've got an outpost and a town center giving combined fire. We've got some Hussars. I think the Minuteman pop if it came out right now, but I don't know if he has the resources. Oh, there it goes. Okay.
There's the Minuteman pop, of course, like you said, the town center, the outpost, pretty much firing on all cylinders here from Sweethegreat, catching Pérez's army in the midst. Gonna lose all his Hussars, but...
Yeah, he loses all his Hussars there, but I would say it's a good engagement nonetheless. Maybe not as good as I would have hoped. I think that it could have gone a little bit better for Sweethegreat compared to what I would normally expect out of Minuteman pop plus town center plus outpost plus a bunch of units. The Hussars just didn't quite seem to do as much as I would have expected, but still, it's a good engagement. He is up in score. He survived. He's going to have this hunt now, so I think he's getting a little bit more breathing room.
Pérez's 4th shipment or third shipment in Colonial Age. Going to be 700 wood. He's stacking a bit of wood in his coffers, but he's going to build a forward staple with that as well. In regards to what he's going to convert that additional wood he has sitting into next, I'm not quite sure. Maybe another blockhouse somewhere around the map. Maybe one like here, just to establish some control around that hunt, or here. But that's a macro play, you know. It does require some finagling of the villagers on Pérez's end. And in addition to that, it's a little bit of a risk, depending on where Sweet chooses to establish his military. I would have liked to see 700 coin there first, but coming out right now, 5th shipment, Pérez, 700 coin, that's going to greatly help him in getting these Cossack batches out.
Well, it looks like he might be aging up. I don't know if it's just accidental, but he has the resources to age, plus another 700 wood if he wanted to.
You're totally right.
Yeah. So, yeah, okay, and he's clicking up right there, so... it did seem like he was a little bit mismacroed there, but I'll give him a pass, because he is going to be going for the age up. It could be a little tricky, because there are actually more British units out than there are Russian ones, and that's usually not a good sign, but if this age up goes through and he's able to get a bit of an army up without losing too much, I don't think he'll be able to maintain this forward base too easily, but if he's able to at least not die, he will be in pretty good shape with the age up. There's not really a good opportunity for British to age up, especially because they have a slow age up.
As reaching the fortress age, Sweethegreat realizing it's got to be go time. This is his best opportunity when Pérez has just hit up. You know, he hasn't received a shipment, he hasn't gotten the upgrades for his units, and he's down 2,200 resources that he had to invest to get up to age 3.
So 10 streetlets just make it out of that. Well, and
they were very exposed, but gonna ignore it for now and try to just push the military units back. Might pick up a Ville.
I think if the Hussars had gone for it, they could have, yeah. But okay, actually, he's going to go in for the engagement. I think, okay, Pérez is still pulling back. That could have gone really well for Sweethegreat if he had continued to push in and Pérez didn't pull back in time. Still actually going to be pushing in further, so Pérez has to be a bit careful. I think he's got one shipment on the way, but Russian shipments, you know, there's no power shipment outside of 2 Falcon S, and you needed a support for that. So Sweethegreat just pushing right in here, and I don't think that Pérez has an answer to this.
Shipping the 20 Strelets card, he did get the veteran upgrade for his Strelets. There's only 2 Hussars out on the field at this engagement presently, but there's 5 coming on the way from Sweet. But that 20 Strelet shipment going to be enough to put off Sweethegreat for now. What's important is that Pérez is able to get enough counter cavalry in order to deal with this 5 house that's incoming as well.
Yeah, I mean we see one cavalry archer out, but we see another in queue. But
coming up from that stable, yeah.
Yeah, I think with one more batch of Hussars, this can still be a bad position for Pérez. Yeah, good pick on the Hussar right there. So let's see, we saw five settlers out for Sweethegreat, so he is still committing to an economic play here, right? He actually is up 15 settlers over Pérez, and there's no trading posts to change that at all. So even if he doesn't win the game with a good Hussar catch right now, I think he's still in a pretty comfortable position, right? He's not behind on map control anymore. Actually, he did lose another Hussar there, which is nice for Pérez, but he's not behind on the map control. He's able to breathe a little bit with some resources. And even if he doesn't win the game with a Hussar catch, I think that he's still going to be okay. This one cavalry archer walking up saying, "Yeah, I don't really want to be here anymore. I don't really know what I was planning to do." And okay, so here's the main engagement. Looks like we've still got a lot of Hussars. I think there's about 10 so far, and I think that, you know, that's actually going to be enough. Even though these Strelets are veteran, if he keeps pulling back, he's going to be losing a lot of Strelets, but he has to keep pulling back because once his Musketeers get in range, it's not great. Minutemen coming out, and some villagers actually guarding, and a great timing on this veteran cavalry archer shipment. That might be enough for Pérez to stabilize
especially
here.
With some villagers sponging as well, maybe.
Yeah, okay, most of those huts are
Those Minutemen coming to the front. Nice.
Yeah. So this is, I think, actually a good engagement. Even if Pérez loses this one, it's a cost-efficient one, and I think that that's going to be okay for him. Because...
I think it's still hard to call at this point.
Yeah.
Pérez pretty much dislodging his entire economy to just at the back of his base, doing nothing right now. Even if Pérez able to hold here, which it seems he is able to, it's looking pretty good.
Yeah. I think the Russians just have this tendency to make a lot of units, and so even if you destroy their entire army, right, in the next engagement, even if you destroy their entire army, you don't oftentimes win the game outright, and after you destroy their entire army, they have this ability to continuously make more and more units, and so you know, not destroying the entire army here for Sweethegreat means that Pérez's next army is going to be very scary. He has still a lot of streelets left over, and there's still, I guess he did lose a lot of cavalry archers in that, but there's still a couple left, and so I'm looking at Pérez's position here, and I'm saying it's not so bad as it was. He is 15 villagers down, but he was 15 villagers down before, and he will be able to catch that up, I think, over time. The one thing that we should note, though, is that Pérez is now on these berries. He does have a hunt over here that he can take, but it's a little hard to do because he does not have military advantage. We do see a mix of longbows and longbows and musketeers out for Sweethegreat, which is better than, I guess, just pure muskets against this Strela composition.
11 musketeer shipment out for Pérez.
That's a good one here, I think. It's going to be pretty hard for these hussars to actually engage onto that now with these 11 musketeers. And we have 3 more cavalry archers. I think that, yeah, this could be pretty bad for Sweethegreat. He might lose a lot of his units. Remember, these streelets do move pretty quickly.
A little bit awkward with the Strela moving into melee there, but I think with those additional cav archers as well as the musketeers in melee, this is going to go quite well for Sweethegreat. Excuse me, Pérez. Taking down all of the hussars there.
Streelets not exactly doing a lot in that fight. They started off, they took out their big axes, but their axes don't actually do a lot to cavalry. And then they started doing a lot of wandering back and forth without doing a lot of shooting. But nonetheless, Pérez had a pretty good engagement there. He's not too far behind in score, and Russians, usually when they're equal in score, that means that they're doing great. So, Pérez holding off there. A lot of longbowmen out for Sweethegreat now. He's pretty much converted to a pure longbowman composition, or longbow hussar instead of this musket hussar. And building actually a bunch of houses over here on this side of the map. So, it seems like neither player has gotten a decisive victory, and both of them are committing to a little bit of a longer game now. So I'm wondering here, do you think that if you're the British player, you should continue to play this out in H2, even though you're playing an H down, and hope that you have just to utilize your better economy to just have more units and eventually get a good engagement? Or do you think it's better to go up to H3 and try to play it out there?
It's really hard to say. You know, basically I would say you have to commit to the H2, especially on a map like this, you know, where we can see like they've already eaten the Huntsman base. The closest hunt is over here, over here, over here, and as the British, you need to maintain map control. And when you're an age down and you're British and you can only age up slowly, that's going to put you on the back foot, and it's going to push you off of resources. I think Sweethegreat, of course, distributing to go to Fortress Age, but I don't know if it's the right call, especially Pérez coming out with the 2 falconets here. It's his go time, basically.
Yeah, we have to remember that British, they don't have a fast age up option. It's going to take forever to get up there, and there's a lot of cavalry archers now. Pérez has a great army, and these falconets make it a very scary position for Sweethegreat. He's going to take his time to get to age 3, and once he gets to age 3, if he's able to stabilize, I think his position will be good. But yeah, it's going to be hard to deal with these falconets. There's not a lot of hussars out either.
Trick from Sweethegreat is basically, how do I stabilize? You can see Pérez coming in here, sieging the market, not a very high value building for Sweethegreat, so I'm pretty sure that he's happy to see that, rather than something like Z moving into the TC or going for some exposed villagers.
Well, interestingly, when you lose your market, it can be very annoying sometimes. Like, the upgrades, you know, at this point doesn't matter, but sometimes especially when your things are not really under control and you need to stabilize and you need to switch around resources a lot. Like, even right now we see Sweethegreat doesn't have a lot of food and he needs that food. Losing your market can be really inconvenient. But yeah, now the TC under fire. These walls may actually be disadvantageous for Sweethegreat now, because I think he needs a good flank with the hussars onto the falconets.
See, Sweethegreat almost to age 3, but it's going to be at least 40 seconds before his shipment's able to arrive. In addition, it takes 30 seconds for his units to upgrade. Engaging a bit early here. Taking
One
down
falconet going down.
Losing.
Looks like another... I mean, the falconets aren't doing too much, but I think he'll take them down.
Get another shot off.
Yeah.
Fighting here with a non-upgraded longbowman. Lost all of his cavalry there.
Yeah, not a great engagement from
believe
Sweethegreat,
his
but
longbowman's crazy.
not terrible either. He didn't lose, and that's always good.
This is true. He did delay the inevitable, and as well, you know, he's still gathering on resources he needs. You know, he has the wood, he has the coin in which to get his upgrades, and he has some hunts over here if he's aware of them, but I think he doesn't. He isn't, and he's going to go for that one up there. This one under the control of Pérez. So he basically has, of course, those berry bushes and base as well. I wonder if he's going to build a mill here. You know, he's a little bit surplus on wood.
Right, exactly, yeah. I think a lot of the contention now for the remainder of the game is going to be over this left side of the map, because we do see 2 hunts and a single mine. Or actually, sorry, 2 mines. We have even 3, depending on how you'd count. We've got a mine over here and then one over closer to the middle. So this left side of the map is still very, very lucrative for either player who can control it. 2 falconets came out for Sweethegreat, but he doesn't have a lot to defend it, so any number of Cossacks, or even these cavalry archers, of which there's now quite a few, would be enough to take these falconets down.
Yeah, at this point I'd like to see Pérez switch from cavalry archers to Cossacks, because we can see you know, Sweethegreat mostly going with that longbowman dragoon composition, but he doesn't have a lot of anti-cavalry out right now, and the anti-cavalry he can build is quite resource expensive.
So red on Q, Pérez did make 5 Cossacks, and he's got another batch in Q, plus some streetlets, so his army is still looking very scary. Meanwhile, Sweethegreat, he's got these 2 falconets, he's got some longbowmen, but he does need a little bit more to make this happen. We saw another dragoon, a single dragoon coming out. Yeah, a lot of his economy or a lot of his villagers are gathering wood right now, and that's just not what he needs. It's going to take him another minute or so for all these villagers to really start gathering food in earnest. But this could be bad engagement for Sweethegreat. He has to be a little bit careful here.
Yeah, taking some damage on the longbowmen there. As well, the 5 Cossacks going to come in, snare the longbowmen.
Yeah, only 3 dragoons out. That's not a great feeling to have. I think I'll save the falconets, but...
the falconet's going to take a little bit of damage. One might go down. Oh, just before it could get past the gate. As well, going to lose the dragoons there.
Yeah, that's...
very nice pickup for Pérez.
Definitely, yeah.
Especially because, you know, that falconet being one of the calling cards for Sweethegreat's defense.
Yeah. And the difference between 2 falconets and 1 falconet is massive, right? It's so much easier to play with 2 falconets. You're able to win so many more engagements. 1 falconet, you know, if it's around, it's easy to get shot down just by standing there and walking up and shooting it. But 2 tends to be a lot more difficult. Now Pérez he knows where the resources are being gathered. He sees all this stuff. A few villagers are getting garrisoned, but a lot are still down here. And I think that all these villagers are going to be dying. We have to hope that Sweethegreat is able to mount some sort of defense, but there's not enough dragoons here. going for this sort of base trade. Not exactly a base trade, more of like a economy trade. He's going to get a few villagers, but he's going to actually need quite a few because Pérez is now up in the villager count, and he's going to be losing this falconet to just random, had some Cossacks around, and can get a kill off that. But I'm still thinking, I mean, look at the size of this Russian army. It's...
Yeah, we can see 107 military population to 40,
right.
And there's only 25 military units engaged there. I think this is going to be the cleanup for Pérez, and from this position, I don't believe there's a lot Sweethegreat can do, and I think we're going to see game called quite soon.
Yeah, I mean, he got a great pop of Dragoons and Hussars just now, and if they had all been together, he might have been able to pull something off, especially if he didn't lose that falconet, especially if he hadn't lost both falconets, and a few longbowmen there. I think that, yeah, the pop timing there with these 9 Dragoons and 5 Hussars was just a little bit off, and I think now we'll be seeing him calling it pretty soon. Still holding on a little bit. He's getting a few nice hits on these Cossacks, but again, losing a few longbowmen sort of for free is never a great position to be in. Trying to do some raiding as well, and there's definitely a lot of good opportunities to raid on this map because villagers are all over the place, but that's, in some sense, he is trying to just stave off what's inevitable. There's so many Russian units barreling down on him. And yeah, I think once we saw that, once we saw those units moving over onto the remaining villagers for Sweethegreat, I think he knew it was time to call it. So Pérez going up.
Will put his match record at 3-0 for his group, and will indeed make sure he moves on to the placements Group O, where he will face Mongo Bilioni and Kyle the Great. And do you want to look at the post-game statistics?
Oh yes, thank you. Yes. So I think we see Sweethegreat had a good villager lead, but he lost a lot of it there, and that, you know, it's never good to be behind the villagers against the Russian player. That usually means that you've fallen behind, because Russia does have a very strong late game in a lot of ways economically. Are there police sirens outside?
Yeah, don't worry about it. They're just passing by.
Okay.
That's just typical Long Beach things.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the mistake.
Oh, good. Sorry. Go ahead.
No worries. I think the mistake from Sweethegreat here was the decision to go to H3. You know, basically he did. If we look at the military unit population graphs, they were going about even. But I think if instead of investing in that age up and, you know, putting himself on the back foot, if Sweethegreat had just pumped that into units and continued to be an impending force, pushed Pérez off of his resources, you know, he would have been in a better position. Even if he was taking slightly, you know, worse trades, he would have had the map control, he would have had the momentum, he would have had the pressure. You know, maybe he would be able to pick up raids around the map, pick off some villagers. Basically, when he chose to age up, he chose to forfeit map control and momentum. And that snowballed, of course, into a loss for him here.
Yeah, I think we see, there are a couple places where Sweethegreat had a big lead, right? He got a good trade early on with the Minutemen call, and then from there he was able to get a pretty substantial lead, especially while Pérez was going to H3. But he wasn't quite able to get a decisive victory there, and from there we see it evens out, but eventually Sweethegreat makes the choice to go to H3, and from there Pérez is just able to make his military lead spiral out of control. And it does seem like that choice to go to H3 didn't work out too well for him, especially to take an engagement right as he hit H3, but before he got his veteran longbowman upgrade and before he got the a unit shipment, because he took that engagement, he got the falconets down, but it was right. He didn't have as many units as he could have because he had gone up to H3, but he didn't have the advantage of going to H3, and so just the engagement didn't work out too well. We see it was pretty much an even trade, but an even trade when you're behind like this means that you you kind of go down to almost 0 units, and then from there, Pérez is able to continue to get more units. And we have to remember as well that Russian units being so cheap, and even trade with Russia usually means that it went against you.
Absolutely, and that'll be the game. Congratulations to Pérez for winning the group as well. I want to say well played to both players. We did see some close games. I think every single game there was close, and very nice to see.
Definitely.